Google thing. It's like, we're live. Here we are. This is not the Scrum. This is the pre-Scrum. It's the I don't know. But Will and I were just joshing about. So Will had this fantastic user feedback about how the fact that we have these two hyperlinks going into Slack, one with the Hangout link and one with the YouTube link, is these funny, troubling learning from the press because the language of them is very similar. I know Brent got stuck on that before. I had, for a long time, we were unable to hyperlink the messages coming from our system to Slack, and we had to have the very, very long Hangout URLs with their big hashes in them, which I felt looked kind of messy and wasn't very welcoming. And we got some feedback and tried to put more welcoming messages in there. Actually, I managed to do that beforehand just by changing the name of the event. But so now we've got this thing now where they're both hyperlinked, but it's now not necessarily what the advantage of before. It was obvious whether you were clicking on a YouTube link or a Hangouts link, which is this funny sort of thing. But so I've done this intermediate thing, which is what I'm going to do now is until people have joined, I don't post the YouTube link, which I'm now going to post. And so that now appears. And so that's less ambiguity. And the fascinating question that Will just asked, or very thought-provoking question, and fascinating, that I wanted to capture for eternity for the Robot Overlords is why would anybody want to click on the YouTube link first time around? And I think you might think that because, like, obviously you've got a live Hangout, you can interact with people, that's great. I think some people do actually prefer, like Federico, for example, he actually prefers for the stand-ups, the scrums, he prefers to watch the video so that he doesn't get sucked in, is the word that he's used before. And I think there are also other people who are less extrovert than me, who are nervous about coming in and sort of chatting with people that they don't know very well.
Also, I guess if there's more than 10 people, I know that's rare, then those people over and above the 10th person could actually watch it, whereas they wouldn't usually be able to join.
Yes, absolutely. And I think actually from Google's point of view, that's sort of the model that they've moved to with Hangouts. They've cut off certain functionality, and they've kind of, I think the reason that they keep it around is sort of for their, it's like they're imagining that one or two people are streaming, like there's two or three people having like a chat, and then there's like hundreds of fans watching. I mean, that's obviously not what we have, but yeah, there you go. So pre-Scrum over. We're ready for Scrum. I mean, these are another fascinating UX issues continually coming up in. We have the website one meeting later on today. Let's start with me. I'm trying to randomize that. I have been late today, but I have been working on performance issues on the main website, and I think I've had an insight, which is that in order to address them, we kind of need to restructure the thing like completely, or am I imagining that? Or anyway, I put that down as an agenda item for the AV community talk later today, and it'll also be mentioned in the website one meeting coming up. Otherwise, what have we got? We've got the React mob coming up in an hour. Yeah, I mentioned the other meetings that come up after that. I am not blocked by anything except, I mean, I guess I would love input about, am I imagining this? Is there some way to avoid this massive refactoring that I'm needing, or will I need lots and lots of help to do this massive refactoring? Other items in my head are, we had the local support meeting yesterday, which was great fun with Brent and myself. We did a bit of a retro, and I've got ongoing conversation with people about changing the time of that to allow more people to attend. But yes, that's me. Will, how are things going with you?
Very well. I had a good morning improving the demo of Y. And I'm getting it ready so that I can plug test ether into it, which is what I'm going to do next. So I'm going to make the demo work with test ether so that you can click the buttons and actually move test ether around the test Ethereum network.
Right.
And see how Y handles that, what its role is. Yeah. So it should be what I've thinking about is using specification by example. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that. I read about it a couple of days ago, and it's I guess the idea is to have an interactive specification so that you can there's no ambiguity about what I mean by how I think Y should work. So at the moment, Y is a pure function inside the browser on that demo. There's no, it's a really neat and tidy thing, but it works in like overview of how I want it all to work when it's complete, if that makes sense. So it's a specification. No blockers. I'm good.
Yeah, great. Well, I have thoughts about the test specification, but maybe we'll leave those to the end if we have time. Great update. Brent, how are things going with you?
Yeah, so spent a lot of time manually importing the charities data, which I've successfully done for the main tables. Next steps are to basically try and retrace my steps, the manual steps, document them so I can automate it. I've got some ideas of how I'm going to automate it, so hopefully that will work out. I'm also I haven't done so yet, but I'm also planning to start looking at the async vote functionality that will allow people to list open votes. And then generally on the back of the local support meeting, there's still quite a bit of reviewing and housekeeping to do in local support, which I will continue to do over the next week or so.
Wonderful.
But I don't feel I've got any blockers at the moment.
Great.
So yeah, all good.
Yeah, that's great. Yes, I'm just so the retro notes for local support in the local support channel, reminding me. Yeah, so I'm working on the a couple of action items for me. I've got to make sure I move these action items so I remember to do them. That is our Scrum. We're now in the after Scrum. You were mentioning, Will, the test by specification, which in my mind, and I might be completely wrong about this, is that what it makes very precise is like what the input and output should be for a given test. That's what it makes me think of. Is that?
No, so this isn't test by specification. This is specification by example. So it's using an example, as in the demo that I've made, as a specification for the real thing.
Right.
So you can use the specification because it is an example.
Okay. So say the phrase again. It's specification by example.
By example, yeah. So you specify what you want your project to be by making a model of it or an example of it.
Right.
So not a full-blown, and that's what I mean by it's a pure function. So it doesn't have any effects on the outside world, what I've got at the moment, this the demo that I've got working in the browser. It just works inside the browser.
Yes.
It does work as I'd expect the real system to. So you've got an overview of the whole system in the browser.
And could we also call that a minimum viable prototype?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, except that it's not really. It's not viable because it doesn't move any money around.
Right, but a prototype. Well, I guess then that comes down to the how on. Like, if it was the minimum viable product, it wouldn't be.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the people make this distinction of like MV capital P and MV small p, which I mean, maybe just confuses everybody. But the idea being that the minimum viable product is the absolute minimum thing that people would actually put any money through.
Yeah.
Whereas the minimum viable prototype, I mean, I think, prototype, if we think about that, prototype plane, it might fly, but it might crash, for example. But then, is it a more anyway? But no, I totally take the example. I had thought that you were with the specification by example. I mean, that reminded me of a test framework that I rolled for a tech test not so long ago for this was, what was it, doing tic-tac-toe or noughts and crosses, and it was specification by example in as much as it had the specification, rather than it being like lots of like little tests that checked if you do this then this happens, you could specify the board game states and say from this board game it should proceed like this. So effectively you had an example game written out as the specification, and that would run and it would check that the game would proceed in exactly that fashion.
Okay, maybe that is what was meant by specification by example. I only read about it a couple of days ago. Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I'm seeing specification, for example, coming from it's talking about, I think coming from the business side more than the software development side. But I think we both don't know, and it's there's this. People make these things up, and then everybody has different perceptions of them. And I don't know if you guys are you guys Platonists? Do you believe that, like, for example, that there is a sort of underlying essential chair of which all chairs represent, and the word chair adheres to, or do you? I'm kind of a subjectivist, which is I'm sort of like, well, every word only means different things to different people, and there are varying degrees of agreement between people about what words mean.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree with that.
Oh, God. I'm home. Yeah. There we go. Yeah, good stuff. I'll just post this thing there. But yeah, that's great. I'll be very excited to see. Will, you were talking about getting it on the test Ether network. That sounds interesting. How are you going with the branch now? You've got the branch with the tests in. Are you looking? Is that developing in the way that you want it's done, or you want to merge it back in, or?
Okay, so I made a couple more commits to it. I haven't thought about how I'm going to make my next commit now, because yesterday I stopped developing the tests because I've switched back to making this minimum viable, the demo basically. Now I'm thinking about almost doing a spiral outwards, and when something like, well, yeah, here's the thing. I guess that I'm going to need the contract next if it's going to go on the test network. I can talk. I mean, I can talk in more depth about what I'm thinking about the tests if you want.
Yeah, no rush. I think the key thing probably in this context was I just wanted to say, I kind of like encourage you to take this step into like get branching.
Yeah.
And you're busy, I think, focused sensibly on all the other stuff. I wanted to make sure that you felt like if there's a time at which you want to bring that branch back in, or you're I don't want uncertainty about what to do and how to do things in Git to sort of get in your way. So
okay.
don't hesitate to reach out.
Yeah.
If you want support for that.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. Yeah, and there is already something that I wasn't sure about that I've held off, and I can ask you about that now or another time.
Yeah, well, maybe let's do one thing. Because I was just in the back of my mind is going on that one of the action items that relates to Brent about working out better times for meetings is I just wanted to report back to Brent. This was for the local support meeting that Sigu was saying that the current time is actually good for him, but his power went out, as I think it fairly frequently does there in Kenya, which is I wish there was someone we could help him address that problem. The Stella was saying that 1.5 hours earlier would be better, and Cess was saying, well, anyway, that's kind of the offer that we've got, is maybe bringing it 1.5 hours earlier on Thursdays. I just wanted to pop that to you, Brent. Is that if we did it 1.5 hours earlier on Thursdays, would that be?
So it's 4:30 at the moment, isn't it? So yeah, that would be fine. Yeah.
Yeah, and that would actually, in principle,
well, I guess that would be 2 p.m. in a few weeks, wouldn't it? But that's also fine. Yeah.
We've also we've got our clocks changing on Sunday week, and then in the US they change their clocks the week after that, and just all confusion will reign. We've got various things. So we've encountered this thing about like 10 times in a row over the last 5 years of Agile Ventures, and it always, for whatever procedures we put in place, it always seems to turn into a bit of a train wreck. But maybe that's the fun of global collaboration. Yeah. So having said that, then actually, if there was something that you were unsure about, let's look at that now and help you out.
Yeah. Okay. This is with Git, isn't it?
Yes.
So Robert made a couple of pull requests.
Oh yeah.
On yesterday to the README. Okay, and right. And that's great, and I merged in one of them, but now I'm thinking. So in the meantime, I've been working on the README on my own computer. So now I'm wondering, when I go to commit, so I'll commit my changes on my computer, and then when I push it, there's gonna be a conflict, isn't there? Because
potentially,
Yeah, because Robert's commit has been added on GitHub.
Yes.
And that hasn't been added on my machine because I haven't pulled it down or anything like that. So when I've got the old history on my machine plus my new changes.
Yeah, so we can see. I don't know if you can see my screen here now. I've got, this is on the, not obviously not your local machine, but on GitHub itself.
Yeah.
We can see here. Here's the change from Robert, and then it seems like you've made at least one change, and then you've also it's given us this merge one from Robert's patch as well. So but so the key thing that I mean, you could do this now if you want to share your screen, open a terminal, and go to it. Is that I mean, it's a perfectly normal situation. The key thing is that you would sensibly at a frequency of about 2 or possibly 3 times a day, depending upon activities and projects, before you make any changes locally, you will do git pull origin master.
Okay.
And pull local stuff in. It doesn't matter if you forget to do it. I mean, you know, it's just usually the more frequently that one does it, the less catch up there is, and you reduce the chance of a merge conflict.
Yeah. Okay. I see that. And then you would just, what would you do? Okay, I'll take that. I'm just thinking when you do that, if I'd made changes locally and then I did that, there might be a conflict there, won't there?
There's always the possibility of a conflict depending upon which parts of have been edited and so on. But do you want to share your screen and bring the terminal up, and let's do it now and see what happens, and we can sort of.
Oh, okay, we could do that. Git pull origin master.
Yeah, and we can then sort of talk about it in the. We can perhaps even see an error and see a merge conflict and see how to get out of it, or we can see that it goes smoothly in this case, and we can think about why, and we can even imagine what we would do if there was a problem.
Yeah, I'll just share my screen then. Thank you.
No, you're most welcome.
Okay. Okay, so we're here, and
so you've got a fair number of changes locally, but that's all right. So, but you could certainly try git pull origin, and you're on which branch you're on there?
I'm on test.
You're on tests. So you're on tests. So I mean, and what I would say there is, given, I mean, you were telling me that on tests you've kind of got it to where you want. Sensibly, before you did anything else, you would commit these changes locally to your test branch.
Okay, so I haven't really got it to where I want, actually, but I could just make a commit for the.
Yeah, but this is the thing: even if it's not quite where you want, I mean, for me, what I would be doing there, even if I was like, oh, well, the test branches you kind of got there, it's safe, it's out of the way, it's not going to confuse other people. I would be tempted to put in. I put in the comment. I'd say, you know, modified the tests. You know, still not quite where I want, but this is part of like then doing that commit and pushing it to GitHub is part of your security. That work that you've done hasn't evaporated, right? It'll then be on the test branch. You can always get back to it, whatever else happens.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, well, the alternative, I could make a copy of Y right now and then just and go on, and so that I'm not wrecking the original, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, right. But why would what you've got there be a wreck of the original when you've got it in? I mean, you could even create another. When you say take a copy, I mean you take a copy of the directory and put it somewhere else, right? But then only you've got access to it and the kind of initial thoughts that you were thinking. And you could say, oh, they're my screwy thoughts that I don't want to pollute anybody else's mind with. But maybe later on, someone else is going to look at that and say, actually, if you did this, suddenly that direction is going to be amazing and really interesting.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, I mean, in the same way that they talk about blogging as like turning your brain inside out, GitHub or Bitbucket or what have you gives you this framework to turn your coding brain inside out and put every possible branching point that you could be going in a different branch. So you might say that this is, you had tests and you got that to a state and now you've done some more things. So you could here to get, well, before you do add, you could say that you want to, do you want to make this a different, like, do you want to call this a different branch? Like call it tests weirdo, or is it just, can it stay in the same?
I mean, tests, the branch is so weird to start with that just stay.
Can I just add something as well? I don't know if this helps, but I think of Git as an undo button as well, Will. You know, I don't sort of get scared about committing lots of things, because there's always a point I can go back to then. So if I've made a mistake and I can't figure out what's gone wrong, I can then roll forward and backwards along those commits to help me find where the problem was. So you know, I know some people are really picky about what they commit, but I think why be picky? As long as you give good descriptions, and even if you're just changing a variable name, or you know, it might even be a really small change, I sometimes commit those as well.
Yeah, me too. I mean, probably for Will's benefit, maybe we won't create a new branch here, but actually related to what Brent is saying, like if you do here, just do git, you don't actually need to do an add operation, but you can commit, if you commit these current changes onto the test branch, that doesn't mean that you'll always be able to get back to the state like that they were in before you made these changes, and you'll have the message about it to know which one you want to get back to. So I would encourage you here to do git commit -am, you know, and then a description of the changes that you've made. This is assuming that you don't want to add interface to y.js yet.
Well, hang on. So these are changes not staged for. Oh, okay, yeah.
What you've got there is you've got the majority. I think the changes that you've made locally are all to files that have previously been changed.
Yeah,
that they previously exist in the repository. You said before in a previous session that the interface to y.js is something that that's separate and you don't want to go there yet.
Yeah.
So it doesn't belong in the tests branch.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, neither does README or.
Do they not? So the changes to the README that you made. What? I mean, you could just do git diff README there, and that will tell us exactly what the changes are to the README and whether they belong in this branch or not.
So I mean, I've README has gone through just churning and churning, and there's notes in it, and it's not ready for anything. Okay,
so and there's not specific notes on the tests in that README at the moment.
No.
So we could.
No, there isn't. No.
Okay. So we could leave that out. So just to you know, go back, give us git status again. So we don't want to do the README. Are the changes to tests, like obviously the test/test.js are those? Are the changes to ysol and the package lock and package.json, are they related to the changes in test.js or not?
No, it's just test.js.
Oh, okay, so you could just do I think as you were originally doing. Sorry, git add test/tests.js and then push that up. Yeah, and then do git commit, you know, updated tests or whatever sensible thing you think you can say about those changes.
I mean, yeah, okay.
You know, latest direction. I mean, you'll always be able to see if you yeah.
What's this called? CAV.
This is a Scrum, Martin Fowler. I can get you the link of the. You could even put the link to the video in there if you wanted. It's in the chat there.
Yeah. Well, if I just put, okay, yeah.
And then you could do git push origin tests. And having done that, what I'd encourage you to do is if you just type git log here, we should see that this is like, you know, we've got these different things. You can always go back to any of these points. So like if it turns out that the changes that you made in that less commit, it's like, oh, what was I thinking? I don't even want to do that. You can always reset the tests branch or a new, like, create a new branch from any commit point. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I could get that bit. So, but the thing is, so now.
Yeah. So go hit Q and let's go back to git status. I mean, so now what it sounds like from there is that these other changes are kind of a mixed bag of stuff. You want to pull in Robert's changes. Now, yeah, like probably if you tried to do git pull origin master, well, one, you might want to switch onto the master branch before doing it. But interestingly, what will happen there is your dirty, uncommitted changes will come with you. So you can do git checkout master here, I believe. Let's, yeah. So if you do git status again, we're going to see that the same changes are kind of hanging around there.
Yeah.
So yeah, probably if you tried to do git pull origin master now, it would complain because it would say you need to either remove or commit your changes to readme.md before you can pull some new stuff in.
Right.
So we then have some different options depending on what you want to do. One way to go is you can git stash it. I don't know, have you used git stash before?
Yeah, but I've got in a real mess with that before.
Yeah, it's well, I can guide you through it if you want to try it again. The other thing is if you want to avoid git stash, what you will need to do is like basically commit. I mean, often what I would be doing, I'd be there like, all right, you know, I tend to do chunks of work related files. I would be committing them and just saying bonk. You may, like you're saying, you've got a lot of notes in the README that maybe you don't want to push up to the main repository, this, that, and the other. I mean, one way to go is here, you could check out another branch. You could do git checkout -b random, and then commit all those changes there. And then your master will be clean and you can pull in the latest changes for Robert. And then later at your leisure, you can look at the random branch, you can look at the test branch, and you can sort of pull in what you need from each of them.
Yeah. So I almost think that it'd be easier to do it the other way. So when I push the changes that I've committed to master, when I'm happy with my README here, and I commit it to master, and then push that, and then I'll resolve any conflicts that there is with the changes that Robert's made. So because
yeah, that's another way to go. That's another way to go.
But from now, I'll and after that I'll do more git pull origin stuff.
Yeah, you certainly can go that way. I would say that if you do that, the downsides, which you may not worry you too much, are one, that your current directory does not have like the changes you got locally are not backed up anywhere.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. And you may have your own separate, you know, backup system, and you're not worried about it, and fair enough. The other thing is that people who are collaborating with you and wanting to understand the direction you're going in also can't see any of your stuff that's local. And two, if, for example, somebody kind of came to you and they were like, they're doing a pull request on master or whatever, you, in this state here that you're in, you can't easily replicate what they will be experiencing if they're running it locally on master, because everybody's, all they've got, like the sort of GitHub becomes the source of truth for the distributed team. What's on master or staging or develop, there are more complex setups, but what's on master is what everybody's working against. So as a sort of a team lead, your ability to kind of get quickly to that state where you've got that master locally is quite important. Probably not right now because it's only just starting out, but it will become important down the road.
Yeah, so I want to, in general, stay as close as I can to what's on GitHub. Yeah.
Well, and it's not so much that you want to stay like on as close as possible. What you want, I think, is you want to be able to bring your Git repo locally into the state that GitHub is in as quickly as possible. And when you have this sort of dirty set of things, like I said, you've got two approaches. One is git stash, which can be, I mean, you know, I'm happy to guide you through using that. Again, all these things, I think it comes down to one's mental model. I mean, I think Git is extraordinarily complicated. My mental model has got better over the last 5 years. It's still not perfect by any means because it is so fiendishly complex. There's a whole sort of design philosophy stuff we can go there. But what I would say is, if you're keen to avoid using git stash, and you want to use that approach where you're kind of getting everything ready, and then you'll deal with the conflicts later on, what I would do is I would check out a branch here, like say git checkout -b, and name it to like what it is that you're doing at the moment. Like the direction that you're going in is all about this specification by example demo updates thing at the moment. Is that right?
Yeah, but that's actually a separate repository.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, yeah. But so the set of changes that you've got here, I mean, you can do git diff to see them all. Do they have any kind of common theme at all?
No, I've been working on the tests, and I've been writing things in the README as they've occurred to me. That's it, really. There's no.
Okay, but so the test stuff we've committed. I mean, do you want to do git diff package JSON, and we'll just see what the changes are there?
what I do in this situation, because I, like Will, I've not had a great experience with Stash, is I create just a local work in progress branch with a date on it. And then once I've pulled those into other branches and pushed them, I'll then delete that branch.
Yeah.
But it means that I don't lose any work I've got if I need to pull down from GitHub or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. So you're using a branch like somebody else might use Stash. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're just getting it out of the way for when you do a pull.
Yeah, but I don't. It's very rare I push that branch to GitHub. I just use it locally, and then once I pull data out of that branch or merge data, I'd then push that up in a proper branch, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great strategy. I say, as a paranoid extrovert, I always push all of my work in progress branches all the time. But that's just me. Nobody else has to do that. Sorry, Will, go on.
Yeah, but that's Sam. That's what you were suggesting with a random branch, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, we were finding a name for it, and I think Brent's suggestion, work in progress with the date. Yeah, I mean, I guess probably we should, rather than necessarily going through the things, which you could do in your leisure. Yeah, I mean, if you were to create a branch here, which is git checkout -b, and just give it work in progress and put the date on the end of it, as Brent has suggested, then that will give you a kind of a slightly perhaps more reliable than Stash. I mean, Stash itself is just,
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I think what I might do is to go away. It sounds like Stash is a core part of the workflow, and maybe what I'll do is go and read about it so that I can use it properly. Because it's not urgent to do this. I'm only. No,
you're thinking that you'll need to do it at some point. Yes.
Yeah, and I'd like to know how to use Git properly. I can't stand it because it's so difficult. And it's lost work for me before. I think I'm just cross with Git for so long.
Sure.
But now maybe I'm thinking, I'll go and have a look. I haven't made an alternative to Git myself, so I'll just go and read about how to use it properly.
I can recommend a good book, Will, because I was like you a couple of years ago. I just couldn't seem to understand it. And there's an O'Reilly book by Emma Jane something. I can't remember her full name. It's called Git for Teams, and it really is a good book. It's because it works you through all the different workflows.
Yeah, it's these scenarios that I've been missing. The references are fine, but I don't know how to. Yeah, okay, that's good.
That's what that book does. It just talks you through as if you're working in a team and the different workflows that different teams adopt. Basically, and she goes through the pros and cons of different workflows and things like that.
Cool. Okay, that sounds really cool. That's
also
that's what I've been looking for.
We've also got. I mean, we do use Git heavily in the online courses that we're involved in, and we've got a section. There's a link here. This is like in our student section for the software as a service textbook that I'm the editor of, and we have there's a whole series of different kind of. I mean, some of them will be too simple for you now, and other ones, but there's maybe more than you need. I mean, so that Git for Teams book sounds great.
Okay.
Yeah, but we've got a whole load of resources for Git. I think one of the key things is I'm a big fan of like just using it in your projects again and again. But yeah, there's lots of great resources as well. So shall we? In that case, I guess we'll leave it there. Maybe. I mean, like the fact that you haven't pulled down Robert's changes leaves me in a sort of slightly nervous state because it's sort of. I mean, you're sort of saying, "Oh yeah, I can." There's no rush. I can do that later. But from my experience as a project manager, like that's the kind of thing that gets me into trouble down the line because I kind of, if I don't have the very latest code updated locally on my machine, then that inhibits my ability as a project manager. Of course, you're in an earlier stage. So.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to read about. Git Stash and have a look at that Git for Teams book to see if I can find a scenario that's exactly the same. So I'd like to learn this properly and
sure.
Take my
no, fair enough. I mean, it's interesting just that you said that Git Stash is a part of the workflow. I mean, I think you can use Git entirely without ever using Git Stash. It's not required by any means.
So yeah, it's a question. I'd like to avoid using it if possible. I'd like to, I'd like to use just the very minimum of Git if possible, and work, like that. just to make it simpler.
Yeah, it's well, I think that the it comes down to, like, for me now, Git seems like a wonderful, helpful friend, whereas in the beginning it was like it's trying to kill me. And it's, I think that I don't know if you guys have heard of, I mentioned this yesterday in some meeting, it's, oh, I forgot his name. Anyway, it's The Design of Everyday Things, which is a book by Don Norman. There you go. Have you ever heard of this book?
You mentioned it before.
Yeah, he has a particular. He talks about how it's all about your mental model of something. So, and he's got a particular example with the refrigerator, with the way in which the thermostat works or whatever. And it's kind of, if you have the wrong mental model for the thing, it basically just seems like total chaos, and you can't get it to do anything you want, and it's trying to kill you. Whereas if you actually can have the correct mental model of it, suddenly you can do the. I think like Git stash is dangerous if you don't have a good mental model of how it works. So yeah, it's kind of like, if you want to be using it, then definitely you want to be getting a good mental model of it. And similarly with the other different parts of Git. So yeah, I'm really interested that Git I hadn't heard that reference.
I guess the gripe that I have with Git is that it doesn't, you know, a good thing should teach you the right mental model, shouldn't it? That's great design, is when it teaches.
Yeah, no, a great design really of a user experience would be something that sort of guides you through that process in order to learn how to use it. And no, Git's a power tool, and if you like, it comes with. Yeah,
you can't complain because it's a free power tool, isn't it?
Right, it's a free power tool with which you can injure yourself, and
yeah. It'd be nice if there was a simpler thing for simpler projects, but maybe that's the whole point, is that there's no simple way.
I mean, the funny thing is that the predecessors like CVS and so on were in some ways simpler, but actually were far more painful to use.
Okay.
In a distributed setting, like branching was. I mean, it's kind of. Git's a huge improvement, I would say, on the previous things, because the previous things kind of like left all the power with the repository owners, like, and even it was just appalling.
Okay.
I mean, we work so much faster with the flexibility of Git, but I think the difficulty is that people coming to Git use. I mean, it's like there's this mental model of a file system, right? Which some people before they're like I think all three of us, using computers quite regularly, like the idea that there are files and directories and so on and things that fit in them, we're all quite comfortable with that, and that allows us to you know, work well with computers. And Git is actually a different model from that, and I think, like I was I always used to like save different Git branches into different directories, trying to use the whole thing. So it's yeah, anyway, I'm waffling on, so stop. I think it's a very interesting conversation. Very pleased to get this
interesting.
Git for Teams recommendation from Brent. And yeah, well, good luck with that, and don't hesitate to reach out in future, and I'll maybe see you guys in some of the other meetings today.
Great,
cool. And if we don't speak to you, have a good break next week.
Yes, I'll probably be catching up with I think, so I don't have such a huge thing the following Monday. I might be just like occasionally on Slack and email, just to try and keep, you know, it getting out of control. But yes. Thanks very much. All right.
Bye
for now. Take care.
Cheers, Will. Bye.
Cheers, Brent.